want to thank all of you for coming today, and there's a few more chairs that are going in over there, Mr. Thorson. And so I do want to thank all of you for your interest and everything, and your interest in really coming tonight. I'm going to start the meeting off, and I'll then be introducing Gary Brawley, one of our consultants. We'll also run the videotape from Galen Coates' presentation that he did last week. Galen is out of the area and couldn't make this meeting. And then we'll also do some Q&A for Gary. And I would imagine that regarding Galen's portion of the meeting and what he does between Gary and Ron Proch, we can answer most of those questions as well. A couple of things about tonight's meeting. We have Joe Shannon is somewhere in the audience, and he has the microphone. So when it comes to questions, I'd like to make sure that before you ask your question, that Joe has a chance to hand you the microphone, and then you give the question. So Gary, Ron, myself, when the question gets asked, it's sometimes hard to hear. You don't catch it all. We want to repeat the question for you so that everyone knows what the questions are that we'll be answering. So just be patient while Joe, he's a flea. He's all over the place. He's very quick, and he'll get that microphone to you. All right. So the first thing on the agenda today is really the goals of the project. And last week I went in A-B order. I'm going to go in B-A order. And the first one is Briarwood, through this project, would like to have the best, most dense, pure 90 acres of turf for our members to play on that we can possibly muster. That's a huge goal of ours, and we've got a lot of challenges out there with the irrigation system. And then secondarily, what was number one last week is really about saving water and meeting the mandate the Arizona Department of Water Resources has placed upon all clubs pre-1984. All of us need to get to basically 545 acre-feet of water for our 18 holes of golf. That's about enough water, they say, to irrigate roughly 90 acres of turf. Ergo, I talk about having the best, most dense turf that carpet-like turf, right? That's what we're after. We are continuously efforting being the best conditioned and playable golf course in the West Valley. So those are really the two goals of the project. And then what I wanted to do is introduce Gary Brawley this evening. He has a PowerPoint presentation which I've passed out to most of you. Bob, do we have the PowerPoint on, or we're just doing the handout, right? Okay, you only told me that 2 or 3 times. I apologize for asking the 4th. All right, so Gary, I'm going to introduce Gary Brawley, who is a widely regarded, he may be wily also, widely regarded golf course consultant, architect, does a lot of these remodel and projects that help golf courses with aging equipment, any number of things having to do with architecture. And I wanted Gary to present to you tonight a lot of what he's doing for Briarwood and what his goals are for helping us come into compliance. So I want to introduce to you Gary Brawley. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. I own my own golf course design company. I'm a member of the American Society of Golf Course Architects. About 5 years ago, I really got involved in the state and the water issues that were coming up because I saw some changes coming. And so I've been very involved at the state level with the Department of Water Resources on golf and water. And so that's kind of where I wanted to start my time tonight with you, is a little bit of education. I think it's important to understand how we got to where we are today with golf and water in Arizona. So in 1980, legislation was passed that the Department of Water Resources was to put together 5 management plans, each about a 10-year period. And each needed to progressively get more and more aggressive on our water conservation needs. One of the first ones that we saw in the golf business was in 1984, which then restricted golf courses that were being developed after that to only 90 acres of turf. So that's why the newer courses that were built after 1984 are more the desert-style golf courses, like Trilogy of Estancia, some of the rec centers golf courses, that are not as wall-to-wall turf as we call it. So that really changed the golf business. It changed it from the old Parkland-style golf courses like Briarwood, like Palmbrook, like Phoenix Country Club, Arizona Country Club, Mesa Country Club. All those pre-1984 golf courses were grandfathered in with their water rights based on, at that point, the number of acres that you irrigated. So the department grandfathered those in. Well, today they're working towards the 5th management plan, which now is going to greatly reduce the water to all those golf courses too. So now all those pre-1984 golf courses are going to have to start to fall into alignment with the water conservation needs. We all know what's happening on Lake Mead. We all see this in the news every day, what's happening with the state and water. I will say that what we do in the golf industry is one of the best, we're one of the best users of water in the state. Probably most of you wonder, the in the golf industry only uses 1.9% of the state's groundwater withdrawal. Only 1.9%. It's a very, very small amount of water, but the public perception, and we're all golfers in the room, is we use a lot of water, right? Everyone drives by and sees these golf courses that are irrigated wall to wall. The thing that they don't realize is the guys like Ron, the superintendents that are out there, are top-notch purveyors of water and the use of water. We have state-of-the-art irrigation systems that have the ability to run heads to the second. We have weather stations that allow us to, turn water on if it's raining or not raining. Right now, with these winds that we've had the past few days, I bet Ron hasn't watered a whole lot in the evening because his consistency of irrigation across the golf course goes down quite a bit because it just blows, right? So we're managing our water that way. We're wonderful managers of our water. We have weather stations on our golf courses that communicate daily to our computer based on the evaporation rates, and that's what we use to schedule how much water we put down every day, is based on real daily weather conditions. So all these advances that we have in golf and water in Arizona, lead to us being those good users. In addition, golf has a major economic contribution to the state's economy, over $3.9 billion a year. And in the last couple of years, that's gone up, because we all know what's happened to golf, post-COVID. So we continue to make those strides. Governor Ducey right now is a proponent of this. He sees the economic contributions, but he also, on the other hand, they see the demand of water and what's happening with the 3-state and Mexico joint venture with the Colorado River Water, which is the major provider of water, and where Lake Mead's at. So we've seen already in other states, in Nevada, Las Vegas, they're in the same boat. They're working now to stop any golf development, period. Like right now, the state of Nevada is saying that there's no new golf courses to be built right now because they don't have the water for those golf courses. So it's in California, they're even further behind us. They started to make some conversions, but it's a lot bigger pill to swallow in the state of California. So in addition, the major suppliers of irrigation, with Rainbird and Toro being our 2 major worldwide, they use Arizona as a test market. So when we talked about golf and water in Arizona, the 2 major manufacturers in the world for golf irrigation use Arizona as a test market. Rainbird, for example, has a manufacturing plant in Tucson, and a lot of the golf guys are beta testing heads and parts and all that on the golf courses because we're trying to grow grass in an arid environment. So we're trying to do it, and our water's not real good. It's hard, it beats up on those systems, and goes from there. So the state has changed our allotment of water, and you're going to lose about 20% of your water state allotment. I sent a letter at one point to the state and said, hey, what happens if these guys just say, we're going to just keep going status quo and not worry about this? And which was a rightful question, because in the past the department really hasn't monitored what's been happening in the golf world. The golf courses have to report how much water they use every year, but they didn't have to report their turf areas and anything like that. Well, they did report it, but the department would just kind of file it away and not even pay attention. In fact, I would say 90% of my clients, what they have on record with the department is wrong. So, but now, in the last 6 months, the department has hired 2 industrial planners, and all they're working on is golf course water use, making sure the wells are right, making sure that our withdrawals from the wells are correct. So they're really clamping down on the golf industry. I don't get it, because we're still only 1.9% user, but we're in there, and we're, for the most part, 99.9% of us, we've been doing what we're supposed to be doing all along. So we're going to be okay in that. So with that, Governor Ducey last fall passed a grant application through federal funds, through COVID funding from federal funds, to allocate $105,000 to legacy golf courses, which are pre-1984 golf courses over 90 acres of turf. And I worked with Nate and Ron in September, and we got that for Briarwood. So we got some money. I kept telling him, I said, you don't want the $105,000? I'm sure my wife will take it from me. So we went through the process with that and got that. It's not much, right? But it helps. And it went towards the pipeline project, which Nate will touch on a little bit more. So that's kind of where we're at. So right now the department is in the final review stages of the 5th management plan. It'll go into, it'll become an adopted plan sometime this fall. It has to stay in statute for 2 years until it becomes law, which will be in 2025. Right now, there is no 6th management plan. The department only is required to do the 5th management plan, so we're going to be stuck with this plan for, right now, the future. They actually had legislation just recently to put a deadline on the 5th management plan that would put the department to have a 6th management plan in 10 years, and that did not pass the House. So we're kind of stuck with the 5th management plan. The department's had about 7 public meetings for the management plan, and I've been participating in all of those. For probably the past 3 or 4, Nate and Ron have been a part of those as well. We've provided public comment to the state on behalf of Briarwood Country Club, dealing with some of the language that they have in the 5th management plan that affects us. So we're still fighting for some of those things. As I told the crowd last week, you have some other clubs that have a lot more financial resources that are lawyering up and are fighting. And they're fighting for the exact same terminology that's in the 5th management plan that's affecting you. So they're fighting for some of those things to get some more water allocated for turf conversion areas and all that. So we recognize that we've got to do something, right? We recognize that we've got to become good stewards. I think it's a little overkill for what they're doing to the pre-1984 courses. My name's pretty well known down in the department. I've got a good reputation because I approach them professionally, and I provide a lot of documentation behind my requests to them, and so I've got a good rapport with them. And then, so when this plan comes adopted, we will have about 90 days, and there's some administrative review and administrative relief documents that we can file to give us a little bit more time to come into compliance with the allocation. So they recognize that it's based on statutes, but right now we don't have any guarantee of that. We just got the documents this week. Was it Monday I sent them out? Just got them this week that we can start filing for that. So it's a process we're going to go through. It's in statute, and we can apply for that. It's just more or less to give you a little bit more time so that it doesn't, by right now, January 1st, 2025, we would have to meet allotment. Well, we're gonna try to petition the state to grant us more time so that we can financially implement more of that in the future. But with that said, one, there's a cap of only 5 years, so that the maximum would be a 5-year period, but you have to show annually a continued improvement towards water reduction and water allocation. So you can't just say, I'm gonna wait 5 more years and do it and hope this goes away. They're not gonna do that. You have to have a very detailed plan, talking about financials. You have to show, water allocation, water use, and all that stuff, and they wanna see those impacts, done as part of that application process. So that's kind of where we're at. So with that said, there's like 180 golf courses in the active management areas that are pre-1984. So it's happening. This is pretty much what I do every day right now, is dealing with working with clubs and water and trying to get them in the best position they can going forward, because it's a big ticket item, but they're coming. Back to my question I kind of alluded to, I asked them about what happens if Briarwood says, no, we're just going to keep pumping our water. Well, I got a letter back from the attorney for this Department of Water Resources, which I've never met, and he lists all these statutes and laws that I go and look up. And the law, the fine in the law right now is up to $10,000 a day for illegal groundwater withdrawal, and they shut you down. So, not that they would do that right away, but I was kind of floored when I saw that, because they'll cease your ability to pump the groundwater, and then they start the fines. Well, we're talking about quite a big level of improvements. It's not something that can take place in one day. It can't take place in 2 or 3 days. You have enough water probably for about 5 days to irrigate your golf course and your lakes. So if you're not able to keep filling those lakes, your golf course is now without water. And if we're in July, we don't have any monsoon weather, we don't last but a couple days and we're done. So those are some of the things that we're trying to make sure and educate about and balance, is that this is real. That's not I don't think they're going to show up on January 1st, but when you start reporting your water use and they're monitoring, I think they're going to come out more and check your wells and check your readings, and just like they do for your water, your meters at the house, they can drive by right anymore, and it tells the guy in the truck. I think they're going to go to that in the state for our well pumping, that they're going to just be able to drive by, that they're not going to have to come out. I think they're getting that. I mean, they've hired 2 guys that are all they're doing is getting up to speed on all the golf stuff. And I'll say this too, it's affecting the farmers too. Now, farmers, they use 75% of the water. It's a big impact to the state, right? They water differently. So believe me, these meetings get very contentious when I'm with the Groundwater Users Authority, and you have all the farmers, and their water is getting cut too. And so it's just where we're at today, unfortunately. So, is that any questions for me on this portion about the state and ADWR? I think Nate, I don't look at the Briarwood website. We were going to post the 5th management plan and put the page numbers in there, so if you're an engineer or you have a background in that, you could actually read what those things are doing to the golf industry. It's like 600 pages. The golf section is about 35, 40 pages where they talk about our stuff.
So Gary, and I'm going to use the speaker because I got to practice what I preach. Don't go far. So Gary, I would like for you to talk to the members a little bit about what your role in this project, beyond the consulting piece, but when the irrigation heads and the satellites get installed, what is your role to help us end up with that best 90-acre layout?
So, yeah, kind of a pre-answer to what Galen's going to say on the video. Galen Coates is your irrigation consultant. I know enough about irrigation to be dangerous, but when you're talking about those high-level specifics of water distribution and all that, I let those guys do that, because then I can focus on what I need to do. So one thing that we're going to look at is Galen's going to come out this summer, he's going to survey all the irrigation heads. And then we've kind of conceptually defined some areas that we could take out of turf. If you played over at Willow Creek, they did it over there in Sun City. Grandview's getting ready to do it. They've done it doing down in Apache Wells.
He's getting close to putting Galen on.
Alta Mesa Country Club, so it's happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that in the future, take out turf. The difference between irrigated turf is about 5 acre-feet a year to put on the rough areas, the out-of-play areas. It's a little under that. The amount of water we need for landscape areas is like 0.74 acre-feet. So we save almost 4 acre-feet of water on landscape areas versus turf. An acre-foot of water is, is about 6 feet. Or 1 acre-foot is a foot of water over an acre. But that's like 352,000 gallons of water. So your water allotment is going to be reduced by 150 acre-feet. Well, that's or 1,600 acre-feet. No, 160 acre-feet. That's enough for 1,600 individuals a year. So one individual uses about 35,000 gallons of water a year. So that's how much water we're sustaining by this reduction in your allotment is for enough for 1,600 individuals. So from there, I'm on a retainer with the club to just kind of help see you guys through this next year and work with the club on documentation with the state and working on these forms and supplying all this documents to the state to just put you in position to get there, and hopefully we get that administrative review, which will give you a little bit more time. But we're not right now. No one is guaranteeing that, so we're just working on it. Part of our problem is we're going to get a new governor between when this goes into rule, was adopted, and we do actually go into law. So that's one of our scary things. We've expressed that to the department, because the new governor could put in a whole new staff, and everything we've worked on for the last couple of years could go by. And so we're not 100% sure on that either. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So any questions for Gary? Something percolating out there? Anything? Hang on, no, we got to get Joe microphone. All right. No, but no one can hear you on the videotape. This meeting is being videoed and will get posted, by the way.
Which one of the guys running for governor's a golfer?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. It was a rhetorical question. I got Joe up for that. Very good.
How come I'm seeing all these apartments and houses and buildings going up everywhere? Who's using all the water there? That should be looked at.
So, whoa, did you do something?
No.
It didn't sound that bad. So any new development that goes on right now, they have to show the state a 100-year water availability for the number of residents. So Sterling Grove, that's out, the new golf development that's out on the 303, they had to prove to the state before they started developing that they had to put in, that they had enough water for 100 years for all of their residents. So, on the HOAs and the apartments, that's been a point of contention with the golf course people, because you have these massive HOAs that have more turf areas than golf, and they're not being restricted. And once you're over 10 acres of turf, you fall into a different category. They play games, and I'm telling you the truth. They end up having 25 different HOAs in there so that they don't get over that 10 acres. Now, I will say that we have made enough of a stink that had a 6 management plan come in place, I think they're gonna go after the HOAs and things like that. I got in trouble from the department, I got my hand slapped, because I last summer when it was raining all summer in August, when we got 9 inches of rain, I took a picture of a city community park that had all these water fountains going off, and like, those aren't water fountains, those are your irrigation heads going off while the park is flooded. And I'm like, golf's not the problem. That turf had enough water for weeks. I bet you Ron didn't irrigate it all in August because he got 9 inches of rain. Yet the HOAs and the parks just keep watering. And we do too as residents, right? You'd have it programmed if you have turf in your yard that on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. your sprinklers come on whether it rained Monday night or not. Nevada's gone after the homeowners. Nevada's going after the homeowners pretty aggressively on you can't put grass in your yards anymore in Las Vegas. So, it's a valid question. You drive through some of these massive communities and you see all this turf, and we're making that same point that look, they're even worse because they are the one, they just waste water. You see it going down the street. If an irrigation head breaks out here, he gets a notification on his phone from the central computer that there's an abnormal flow going out. Because now that head that's only supposed to be putting out 65 pounds of pressure is putting out 120 because it just broke and the lid came off. So he immediately gets an alarm to his phone that he can stop the system and find out and go isolate that and go find out and get it fixed. So that's what we do on the golf courses, right? So it's manage it. So I hope that answered that question.
One more question. I'm right here.
Gotcha.
Who actually? I just like some clarification. Who, once this project gets approved from the vote and all that stuff, who is the point person that manages everything from buying the materials to organizing the labor to getting the stuff done? I mean, who's in charge of that?
We have contractors that would be responsible for the management of the project, the sprinkler head installation, the satellite installation. They have their own crews. The dollars that we've talked about that are on that document that you have reflect the labor costs. It's up to Briarwood to order the parts from whether it's Toro or Rainbird. In this case, it would likely be Toro, excuse me. So we place the order, and then the contractor that we have to do the work is responsible for doing that.
You have several contractors, though. Is there somebody that's in charge here? You have several contractors, obviously,
Right.
involved in this. So
Ron is our project manager, if you will. Right.
all right, thanks.
I should have just said that, huh?
Yeah.
I wasn't asking for a vote. Yes, sir.
If I can just kind of recap to make sure I got all the pieces together. It seems to me that from what I see here, we have 701 acre-feet of water allocated annually to this club, correct?
Correct.
Of that, 484 is from your well.
Correct.
216 acre-feet from are leased from the recreation center, Sun City West.
We're 250 acre feet is what we're allotted.
250. It says 216.
It's probably what we use. I'm not sure what you're reading exactly.
Well, it's a part of the handout.
Okay.
At any rate, when you take that, if I can just get clarification, the reduction in the water allocation from 701 acre-feet per year will be reduced to 560, which will be 140 acre-feet per year.
It's about 540, about 545 acre feet a year. So we're close. Go ahead.
And if I remember terms from way back when I was in practice, about 325,000 gallons are in 1 acre foot. That 1 acre of land, 1 foot deep.
Right.
43,560 square feet per acre. Is it?
There's a lot of detail, but I think you're tracking.
Right, I just want to make sure my numbers are correct because I'm rusty at this.
They're pretty close.
So you have a substantial reduction in acreage.
That is correct.
Which will kick in and be effective January 1st, 2025.
That's what the fifth management plan is saying. So just to add on to that, what Gary mentioned is that ADWR is not trying to blow up all of these golf courses pre-1984. They are providing for some administrative relief for clubs like ours or courses like ours that are making attempts to get down to compliance, to use the 545 acre feet versus what we've been accustomed to. They realize that you just don't turn the water down or off, or that there's a lot that goes into it for a thriving business to continue to thrive. So they are suggesting that they may entertain, as long as we have a viable plan, an extension to that. Nothing is guaranteed, that is not affirmed, but they have alluded that that is kind of what could be in the offing, and frankly, we're banking on that a little bit. The more time that we have, the more time we have to accrue dollars to pay for some of the improvements. The irrigation system itself is a slightly different. That's the first of the big nuts to conquer, because we do have some challenges with the irrigation system that I'll get into in just a moment. Any other questions for? Yes, sir.
Okay, presently, how many acres are we watering?
About 156 is our acreage of golf course. How much of that is getting the lion's share of the water is another discussion.
Where does this relate to the 90 acres that's in this document here?
So the ADWR has done the math. They have figured out, they have calculated, not us, how much water it's going to take to irrigate 90 acres of turf, which they deem as appropriate for an 18-hole golf course with all the little, the driving range and whatnot. You want to get that? Okay.
I will say, add on to that the state has worked with University of Arizona's Turf Grass Extension Program and Dr. Paul Brown to determine the needs for Bermuda grass in Arizona. So this is, not just a whim that they determine on how much water Bermuda grass needs, and there's actually a different allocation for overseeded areas, versus non-overseeded areas. So at the end of the day, the department's going to give you your allotment, and they don't care what you do with it. So you get that, and you could deficit water, all your golf, everything but your greens and green surrounds, and make those super lush, and then really just deficit water those areas. That's good, but that's not a good situation either, because now you actually bring in the Department of Environmental Quality with fugitive dust. If it's not got vegetative cover, or it doesn't have an inert ground cover like a rock or a DG, now you expose your golf course to the Department of Environmental Quality for fugitive dust, which we deal with all the time in Arizona. And we've seen it the last few days, right?
So he said that term fairly fast. It's fugitive dust, and that's dust that escapes our property and ends up in your yards or and maybe in your lungs and all that kind of bad stuff. We know what that brings.
Did that help?
That helps. Now, has there been a study done at all to say what can reduce from our 156 acres to a reasonable acreage that we can be watering?
So I think we're going to get into that a little bit more when we talk about after Galen's presentation about water use, and we're going to see what happens with the irrigation system before we have to commit to that. So, historically you've watered a little bit less than what the allocation is, but you've had bigger areas. So, we're going to play with to see what those rates are. That's why that administrative review gives us time to see what our water consumption is with the new irrigation heads and the efficiencies of that before the clubhouse to get into now taking out turf. So, and we have to be careful because we can't work this allocation right to the number. Because in 2020, we were in a drought. We had a bad summer. We had no rain. And so, that number that they're allocating is based on assuming that we get our annual rainfall. Well, 2020, we didn't get it. 2020 was your highest use of water in probably the last 12 years here because we didn't have any water in August. It was dry, it was hot. Last year, we had 9 inches. Your water use was way down. And, because we were getting hammered every other day, it seemed like out here. And we had the one event, it was like 2.5 inches in like 30 minutes. So we have to be careful in that we don't take our exact allotment and dial it in exactly. Like we've helped provide some spreadsheets to look at, okay, what's 90%? Where does that get us? Because that gives us a little bit of flux if we get into a drought year and have to use a little bit more water. So it's a lot of spreadsheets trying to figure this all out.
So, but you're saying then we have to spend all this money prior to saying, well, we could shrink the thing or not shrink the thing?
Well, the irrigation, and Galen's, I think let's play Galen's portion because he's going to answer a lot of those questions, I think, about the irrigation and those important things. And then if you still have another question, we can answer it after that. So.
Okay, so to keep this moving along, Bob's going to hit the portion where Galen Coates, he's an irrigation expert international and happens to live here in the Valley. So we're going to play the video from his presentation last week.
Thank you. I'm a little taller than Gary. It's great to be with you. You have a wonderful facility that just needs to get current. Everything in life changes. We don't like change, some of us, but if we stay involved with it a piece at a time, it's not as painful. We have been on the advisory committee of ADWR since its inception in 1980. And so we've watched what's happening. This Management Act that Gary has talked about will happen. They don't back away from them. It just requires certain legislation and certain ways in which it's presented so that legally the attorneys don't get in a big dispute with each other. That's what's really going on. Our part of irrigation is basically this. You have this fantastic facility, but you don't have enough water to support it at the rate you're using it. The concept is this. We want to put about 2.5 inches of water in the ground every week. And we want to do it in an efficient basis or we're wasting our resource. Ron doesn't have the current tools to do that. The superintendent, the tools are worn out. Every one of those sprinkler heads out there has a gearbox in it like a transmission in your car, an automatic transmission. It wears out. And what's happened is all those sprinkler heads are of different types. They're not all the same. Just because of through the years things got replaced with what they had on hand to replace it. So those sprinkler heads are like everybody in this room. We're all different. And they need to be similar. And so when they're all different, they put out a different amount of water. One puts out 30 gallons a minute near the pump station. One puts out 20. One puts out 15. What that means is we don't put an even amount of water of 2.5 inches a week in the ground. We got some water this deep, and we got some water that deep. Real basic. So we've got to straighten that out. We want to find water. We find water that you already have by getting it efficiently distributed. Does that make sense? That's the whole science of this whole thing. The weather stations are fantastic. But you need a person like Ron to make good decisions in spite of what the weather station says I'm going to do today. So that's where thinking and experience comes in. I know you're all familiar with what experience is worth. And so that's what this is really about. So you've got a pump station that's 23 years old. The pump station has a big motor on top, and it just spins a pump below ground, like a bucket of water, just spins it around and around and around, and it pulls it out and sends it out to the irrigation system. Well, you've got your pump spinning like this. The motor's saying, I'm going to use 400 kilowatt hours. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to put it out through this pump, and I'm going to put it out on the irrigation system to all those indifferent heads and get different amounts of water in the ground. Another challenge your pump station is probably, you'll be lucky to be 60% efficient with your pump station. As things wear out, like your car, like everything in your home, they become less efficient. You spend more money that is never received because it just takes the same amount of energy and you get 50% of its worth. And that's kind of what's going on. So we don't need to resurrect the whole irrigation system. What we need to do is we need to get some of the parts in sync with the orchestra. We need a conductor. The conductor is Ron with a computer and with sprinkler controllers and heads that are just on the same page. They got the same music. When you got different music, you're going to go wherever they go and spray wherever they're going to spray. Also, Gary is bringing in the concept of how to make some turf reduction down the road because we're going to find more water by not irrigating every portion wall to wall. And that's a decision that we don't make. It's a decision that Gary makes with your club and with your committees, etc. So, long story short, we need to find what water you have and use it efficiently. We need to prepare for the water reduction, which is going to happen. And many of you have heard about the depth of water in Lake Mead and Lake Powell. Now that's surface water. That isn't necessarily going to be the problem here, but it's all related as far as the concept of water conservation. So if I got on surface water, just so you'll know, if I got 3/3, if I got 3 feet of it, and this next year, that surface water, they're going to say you're going to get 2 feet of it. We're going to take 1/3 of it away to users. That's what's happening. So we have to be efficient enough to be able to operate under those conditions. DWR, the Department of Water Resources, they're saying we're going to reduce your amount of acre feet of water that you have the allotment for. You have 700 and some acre feet, and you're going to be cut to 540. And that's their regulation. That's how they regulate the water. See, the whole goal of DWR, if there's a big goal, is to make sure we have enough drinking water, okay, so that we can live and reduce the recreational water down to where it isn't, including farming, isn't dominant. And there you bring in other types of water, which is another subject, which isn't one I'm going to discuss today. The whole idea is become efficient with your water bank, with your water account. Think of it as a checkbook. You got so much in there, and you got to distribute it evenly and efficiently. And that's what we're trying to do. The instruments of weather stations, computers, and all that, they're great, but if you don't have the bread and butter in the right place, the sprinkler heads and the operation of them, you can't put an even amount of water in the ground. And that's what we've learned from years of science. This is really a science. It isn't just some by guess and by golly. We did by guess and by golly many years ago, but we're way past that now. So our goal is to help you find the water you already have out there. Some of it is just being lost in the air. Some of it is not distributing evenly, and that's what's going on. Any questions? Yes?
I got a question. Is our system set up that it would lend itself to, say, modifying and changing 2 holes a year for 10 years?
Is your system currently set up to do that?
Is it likely that that's the way to go?
No.
Could you explain a little bit?
Yes. Irrigation equipment increases in cost. Equipment alone 7 to 10% every year. Do the math. Now, the installation is even more than that with what's going on today. So the longer you wait, and I've been in this business 40 years, I've never seen the price of irrigation equipment ever go down. I don't care if it's a recession, a depression, or whatever. So the deal is it's just going to cost you, it's going to become unaffordable. I have a project which is a homeowner association, not a golf course, in the area that we estimated 18 years ago was about $600,000 to convert it to actually SRP water, okay, another water. We just finished it, it was over $3,900,000. You could have borrowed the money, I mean, if you're in that game, but you wait, you're just going to pay more and more. Plus, as Gary explained, you've got the problem with DWR saying you will reduce your water quantity or you will have penalties, fines. And I have 3 golf courses right now that I've been dealing with for some time, over 13 years, that are dust bowls. They turned the water off because the golf course was a separate entity from the homeowner association, and you have a different. So the reality is, you just need to preserve what you have if you want a golf course, and let's use the resources more efficiently. Yes.
Will we lose our lakes?
Will you lose your lake?
Yes.
No.
Isn't there a lot of evaporation that happens through there?
A lot, that's a subjective term. About 6, since I'm 6'2" here, that's how much is evaporated off the top of a lake per year. But there's nothing we can do about that except do some more efficient with the lake work. But that isn't where the big water loss is. The big water loss is you're not spraying the water in the right places. That's where the big percentage of loss is.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is your particular task in this project going forward if this all kind of keeps moving in that direction?
We will go take a GPS device. That's just a device that goes out and actually collects where the sprinkler heads are, where the cart path is, where the greens are, where the bunkers are, and we put it into a map that you can actually, and put the symbols on it so you can actually, it looks like a golf course. So we're supposed to go collect all that information, and that's where all the existing sprinkler heads are, and clocks and stuff, okay? The sprinkler heads, that's all of you guys, because you're all different, and all those out there are different. We're going to give that to Gary Brawley, and Gary's going to start to create a turf line that is efficient on how to get, without redoing the whole irrigation system. Okay, he's going to carve it out, the turf line, and so you become more efficient that way as well. So we collect, then we end up designing it sufficiently enough to where it can be, new heads can be put in the ground, same spot in most cases. We collect the data, put it in the computer, give it to Ron Proch, and Ron starts to operate efficiently with a system. Yes.
So if we go forward with the project, should we expect the changes that are planned to be made to last us through another 15, 30, in our case 40 years?
That was a joke. 40-year thing.
That sounds biblical. 40. You can certainly expect to get 25 to 30 years out of the system, yes. Now let me be real clear. The sprinkler heads have a gearbox. They just flat wear out after so many years. You just put another one back in. The pump motors sometimes burn out. You replace the motor. You don't replace any of the big piping. You don't replace all of the arteries out there because right now they're functioning quite well. They just don't have the right orchestra. They don't have the right conductor to them. So does that answer your question?
Yes. I guess what I was looking for is that we won't have another one of these repairs another 10 years or 15 years. We should expect the life of this new system to extend on into maybe 25 years with, the occasional repair of a sprinkler head or a motor or something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a feedback system? Sprinklers themselves are great, but you've got to have some way to monitor to know where your adjustments have to be made. How do you do that?
Well, great question. The only reason we have a computer in these systems is to be able to organize each head on what it's supposed to do. So the highs and lows that Gary talked about, you have a high area, mounded area, you have a low retention area. Those are all on separate operational times. And so how you do that is you organize this so that you can operate them efficiently for their particular needs and not all the same. Like all of your sprinkler heads, all of you operate the same. No, we're going to have some of you at 10 minutes, some of you at 30 minutes, some of you at 5 minutes, and some of you are going to water 4 times a day, and some of you are going to water once. So the system has that ability to do that.
Wait a minute. You have to have a feedback, some kind of a monitoring moisture control system or something on the ground to be able to adjust that.
We don't use those very often because they're not efficient. What we use is what Gary Brawley talked about, evapotranspiration pan rate. There's a pan, it's a scientific device, it's been used for years, and whatever evaporates, we want to put back in the soil. Now the feedback you're talking about, yes, there's a feedback from each head to the controller to the computer that will let us know whether that operated or not. So we have a mechanical or a device of feedback so we know how we need to go check and monitor what's going on. But evapotranspiration pan rate we found is the most efficient way to operate large turf facilities because the soil is not the same throughout the facility. So if you put a moisture sensor at every sprinkler head, which would be economically impossible, the device, and 10% of them go out a year, you're just chasing your tail. So because the soils are not all the same, the depth, we use the pan rate to put down back what evaporated or was used in the soil by that area, that sprinkler each day, the vegetation. That's the most scientific way that we found to irrigate. And by the way, Gary mentioned you live in a particular place in the world. We've done a lot of work all over the world. You live in a place where this is where the best science of irrigation operation and performance and maintenance has ever been done. This is the model. The law that came about in 1980 and 81 helped create an environment to get the best operators and the best forms of irrigation science in the world. I've been to the South Pacific, I've been to Hawaii, I've been all over the place, and I'm telling you, the best science and operation is here. This is where it was kind of learned. Many of the people here went to those foreign environments to teach the rest of the world how to irrigate. Any other questions? Yes?
One more, I'm sorry. So by watering more efficiently, Ron puts a lot of chemicals on the golf course to fertilizer, weed killer, heaven knows what. By watering more efficiently, should we expect to get a greater efficiency from the chemicals that he puts on there, thereby saving us money?
Scientifically, that's absolutely true. The idea is that we want to use less water, which will equal less whatever Ron's putting down, or it will last longer. Its life will be longer rather than leach it all the way through, gone, over with, wasted. Fertilizer is a perfect example. How you fertilize with water is a big deal. You can have twice the effectiveness of a fertilizer if you know how to irrigate correctly. But if you don't have a system that irrigates correctly, one that operates this deep of water and this deep, there's no way you can accomplish that task. Thank you. Oh, question? Sorry.
Is our water that we use for golf courses, does that come from a separate source than the people that are building these 100,000 houses in the Phoenix area? Are we reducing our water so they can build that many more houses?
No. No, you have a well water delivery system. There's a hole in the ground that goes down 1,000 feet.
800 and some odd.
800 feet. Think of a shaft in the ground going down 800 feet, and we're pulling the water out. And this property, this area, that well is registered with the Department of Water Resources, and that well is for your use for this facility, which was grandfathered in 1981. And so you're not taking anybody's drinking water, and they are not taking yours. They're having to use potable drinking water for all those facilities unless we come up with a reclaimed sewage treated water to help them build those facilities, which makes them viable. Now, those facilities you're talking about in Phoenix or anywhere, if any of them are over 10 acres of turf, 10, then they cannot use potable drinking water. They would have to find another source. Why? That way we're preserving drinking water for the people that live there, because they have to have a 100-year supply guaranteed before they can build those developments. So the water you're using is actually farm water converted to golf water historically.
Yeah, it was. I think Jessa Lee asked that question, and that one's been answered by Gary. So that's Braylon's role in this, and I think that Braylon and his crew are coming out Monday, and they will. And that's one of the reasons the golf course is shut down for a while, so that they can get out and mark all the heads, so that he can do the GPSing of where those heads are. He'll get that put onto a map, give it to Gary Brawley, and it goes forward from there. And he starts, putting things in the right places and sculpting things out a little bit. Yeah, so we get to show that work for the department as well. All right. Do you need anything to add? Okay. All right. So I appreciate you sitting through that. I'm sorry Gary Galen couldn't be here today. So next on the order of the projects, I kind of want to run through with you real quickly. As you know, we did the creek. Some people maybe wondered why we did the creek project first. We knew we were losing a fair amount of water. We thought we were losing in the neighborhood of 30, 40 acre feet, something like that. Not exactly sure. It's very difficult to measure. And we also had the vendor who could do the project for us. He was available, and that happened to coincide with the grant being put out. So it was very affordable to the club. We could use some of the cash that we had on hand to pay for that while the crew was here ready and could do the work. One of our bigger problems is having the crews and contractors to be able to schedule us in to their schedule. And there's only so many people in the state that do this kind of work. And right now, with all the money that's in the system, there's a lot of projects that are being done. You can imagine if all 72 golf courses that took advantage of the grant are doing the work right now. This is the time you want to be in the irrigation business, because you're going to make some serious money, and you're going to be doing it for quite a few years. So this gentleman was available. They got it knocked out, and we are saving money and utilities and water every day. And we're starting to get the data to understand better how much we're actually saving, because we are piping it rather than sending it down the leaching creek. Okay, so that was the first phase of it. The second one is really the irrigation system. It's the sprinkler heads and the satellites. Most of you may not know, many of you may not know, that the failure rate on our satellites and our heads right now is pretty significant. Ron comes in every day, and I think as he crosses over past the second tee, he does a little Hail Mary, and he prays that everything went on and came off as it was programmed to do, because it doesn't happen that way all the time. Sometimes it's just a head here or there that sticks on or doesn't come off, and he discovers it somewhere along the day. He might review the computer to see if the computer tells him that something didn't run. He may look out and see that the first, 9th, 10th fairway is flooded all the way down to the lake, because the satellite just decided to turn everything on and not stop, and it ran for the last 8 hours. We don't currently have the little alarm system that tells Ron, hey Ron, wake up, because there's a lot of water going out on the golf course that you don't know about. The new system has that. Right now, what I depend on is our friends at nope, not them. Our friends at the posse. I get the emergency call from the posse, and they say, Mr. Pomeroy, one of our crew, deputies, just let me know that there's a river going down 135th Avenue and it's coming from your property. So that's how we find out now. We want to head that one off before we waste a bunch of water. So we probably get once a week, 3 times a month, somewhere in that range, a failure of head and or satellite. The satellites themselves are of such an age that the parts are not produced anymore. They don't make them. So we have to buy remanufactured parts. Those are getting harder to find. And by the way, when you need a remanufactured part, that means you don't have any options, and the people who sell those parts realize that, so the price goes up and up and up. They can get whatever they want to, so it becomes a very expensive repair. Is that roughly correct? Okay, thought so. I've heard this a few times. So I've also had people say, you know what, we hear that we lose a lot of water out of the lakes, and why don't we just fix those first, because they're not as expensive? Well, we're not sure how much water goes out of those lakes. You know, they're like a bowl, and over the years, the shoreline has gotten bigger and wider. These lakes have gotten bigger. When we fill the lakes, the water goes over the edge of the bowl. Those parts of the bowl aren't lined. They never got treated. So we have a leaky bowl over the edge, and that's where a lot of water goes. We know that. We also know that if we fix the lakes, that may not solve the problem entirely. We don't know exactly that calculation. We're getting closer to understanding it, but we know that the irrigation system itself, the satellites, the heads, the pump, 15 to 20% of our water use could be saved with that efficient system that Galen was talking about, and Gary has talked about, and Ron has talked about. 15 to 20%. And this is the real heart of your golf course. It's the water distribution system. They age out. They have to get replaced. None of them are designed to last forever. And we are at and near the very end of that life cycle. And so the money that we hope to raise from this project will go to replace the most important element of this whole system, and that's to ensure that our water distribution system is efficient and is functional for 20, 25 years to come. It's vital. So we opted to really put that number 2 on the list after this pipeline project. The good news is that after that irrigation system is finished, we can evaluate how much water we're using, and we'll get excellent data. We've got the tools in place to measure all of it. We'll know how close we are. If we're lucky, reasonably lucky, we might hit our number. We might hit our 540 acre feet. It might be really tight, and it may cause us to say, well, you know, drought year, whatever, we need to save more. We need to have more available to us. So it might require at that time, a couple of years from now, that we do some work on the lake. Why do the lake, if we don't have to? We don't know that we'd have to do all of the lakes, although I think long-term, we want to do all the lakes because we're giving away water, and you know that that's a precious resource. That's been beat into us by everyone all day long, every day. So the importance of that irrigation system being really the major push, that's the $1.55 million. And so it's extremely important. And then we get it, like I said, chance to evaluate the data. Let's see if Lake 8 and 9 can be resealed and repaired. And if that takes care of it to a sufficient number, we might be able to pause there, and every year we can set aside maybe 50 grand to start to do the lake sealing on the other lakes. We have to wait and see how much money the irrigation, the creek and the irrigation system will save the club. All right, I'm getting there. So I was reminded that I ought to read a few of these Q&As, and I'm going to go to the one that's really the most rugged. What happens if this doesn't pass and we don't have the money to do it? What happens? Okay, so several next steps will occur. Remembering the purpose of the improvements are to comply with the state-mandated water restriction and give you the best 90 acres of turf density we can do. Option 1, if this doesn't pass, might be fix the lakes only. Requires less cash up front to save a yet unknown amount of water loss. The irrigation system is the logical place to start, as I said, as it allows the club to save 15 to 20% of our pumped water and improve course conditions. So that meets our goal of turf density. And for those of you who don't think that accurate placement of water on our golf course doesn't provide better turf density, that's a mistake, because it does. Every golf course that has done this has realized that, wow, this makes a difference. No one has said, gee whiz, that's not as good as the old one. So irrigation and satellite heads are currently inefficient in the application of water, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of rereading some stuff here. We're at the natural life cycle of this equipment, and it's nearing the end. Irrigation system replacement is inevitable. It is, by the way, and if we don't do it now, to Mr. Kinziora's comment, it's going to happen in the next, I don't know, you guess when your irrigation pump is going to fail, or your heads just become, you just can't replace enough satellites anymore. You end up declining. Anyway, number 2, as an option, you could offer the club for sale to a member consortium who's willing to invest the right amount of money and own for an amount commensurate with the value. So if any of you have about $5 million and don't have a home for it, I'd like to meet you after the meeting. That would be option number 2. There's another option that I didn't write in the FAQs, and I know that Mr. Aiken is here, so I'm going to address it up front. There is a discussion that's been had, just, at this point it's casual discussion, there's a possibility that we could sell a portion of this golf course for development, take that money, and then invest it into the remaining portion. There might be enough acreage left after that to be able to create another 18-hole golf course within the remaining acres that didn't get sold off. We're uncertain. It's going to cost us a little bit of money to find the answer to that question. It's a viable question, and it's not, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think it's a viable question, but it has some I'm a little skeptical of it, and I think, and I've argued for it, in small little discussions, but I just don't think that we can squeeze in this golf course, a quality golf course and golf experience, private. I just have doubts as to whether we can get that done in the remaining acreage that we don't sell off. It's not like we can sell off just the parts that we don't use. So that's an option. Option number 3, restrict our water the best we can and take the product that is delivered. My view simply is that it would look more like Hillcrest than Briarwood, and I don't think that's a product that you want. I don't think it's a product that sells as a private club. It's just the beginning of the end. So that's the third one, and then I guess the last one would be to list the club for sale as something other than a golf course. Now, something interesting I found out, and I think after all the lawsuits are settled, that you could sell this. I mean, I think it'd be, you get enough lawyers involved and whatever, and even though there's 311 households that line this golf course, if we can't afford as a club to use the water that we're allowed to and provide the kind of product that sells as a private golf and country club, then selling it would be the last option. None of us want that, but those are just options, and I did list that one last. The interesting thing about this, I had a little discussion yesterday and today. We have 484 acre feet of grandfathered water rights. We own that. We can pump it all day long. That is worth about $850,000 a year on the open market. So we're asking members in the form of an assessment to spend in the neighborhood of $7,500 if you're an equity golf member. The water rights that you currently own have a significant value to them. Okay? And those can be sold on the aftermarket. There's value. This club has a ton of value. I think this club has a lot more value to you as individuals, you as people who are living a great life with, a wonderful facility amongst friends, people who take your money on the golf course, but you come every day and you practice and you try to get you're living life, and it's a good one. And if you're part of that, it's amazing to be an employee as a part of that. That's why we're here. We like it when you have fun. We like it when this is a great community. It's a great club. It's a wonderful organization. That's really what's at stake here. Because if we can't afford to do this and all those other options come winging down the road, it takes a while, then we have to figure out something different to do. You're not all going to be able to gather. And, it impacts social members as well. I've got 500 social members that come to this club to dine, play cards, see concerts, do all the stuff that you do, and socialize with each other. If that golf course is out, then so's this clubhouse. And I don't mean to, be an alarmist or anything, but this is the very real thing. There's a fork in the road here. And unfortunately, this one comes with a dollar figure. We have to make an investment, a capital investment, in this property that gets us continuing to enjoy a high-quality golf course and club environment and get us to a next generation. We all have that responsibility to get it to the next generation. And the reason is 25 years ago, people were doing that to get here today. Did they spend all the money they should have? Maybe not. Did they defer some expenses? Maybe they did. But you know what? At one time, after 2008, the club, you know what happened in 2008? We lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of members, and we were hanging on. This club hung on tight, and because of a lot of you in this room, you made it through. We're in a good place. We have probably $800,000 to $1 million cash in the bank. And I would have done a somersault in front of you 4 years ago when I got here, because I said that was goal number one. I didn't know we had to spend $3 million on this property. I didn't realize it, nor did you probably. So why don't we use all that cash for this system, and why are we asking you for money? Because I'm going to tell you, this clubhouse by itself has so much, it has deferred maintenance very similar to what's going on the golf course. We fix things, as Dan Bayo used to like to say, when they blow up. And that's no way to fix, there's no way to run a country club. We just haven't had adequate funds. We finally, by the grace of the pandemic, you know, strike me down for saying that, we have some cash in the bank because of PPP money and all that kind of stuff, and good board governance and management operations doing everything they could. We have ground it out. You got a bunch of cash that we have, but you have a lot of needs for it. I've got $100,000 worth of air conditioners on this building. I've got $250,000 in that kitchen, you know, eventually they stop working. So we're in a much better and different place, but we're still asking for a contribution to get this golf course fixed and fixed right. The point is that excess cash, plenty of things spoken for it, and they're going to come just as you know, as they will. Okay, so cost of phase one, $1,552,000. For the members, at our current equity number of 180 equity members and 74 seasonal and non-residents, that equals an amount of $7,154 for an equity member and $3,577 for a seasonal non-resident. Our bylaws state that seasonal non-resident members pay 50% of any assessment. That's why it's half. Social pay none for the golf course. They pay into the replacement of other assessments that would have to do with the golf course or with the clubhouse. That's in the bylaws. And it's in the new, it's in policy of the bylaws vote and whatnot. By the way, we've got 120 ballots cast out of the 180, so if you haven't cast a ballot for the bylaws, please do so. We need your votes. Whether you vote for or against, get them into the office. So on the financing, we do offer, one second, we do offer, Joe, there's going to be a question over there. We do offer a financing through Bell Bank. That is the bank that we just now have started doing business with. They've turned out to be great partners for us. They've offered to finance the assessment personally if you choose to want to finance the assessment. So you would be creating a loan with Bell Bank, not through Briarwood, but with Bell Bank. They'll finance it 100% at a good rate. Get it while you can. I don't know yet. So 36 months at a 5% rate, if you financed 100% of this, comes out to about $214 a month for 36 months. If you did it over 5 years, $135. Non-resident, it's $107 for 36 months, $67 over 5 years. Okay, now it changes. At the end of May, we're only going to probably have 173 equity members. Every year, Briarwood loses some of its equity members. This is a seasonal thing. And we're planning on having 73 non-residents. So the number goes up slightly. Goes from $7,154 to $7,410. So that's the equity share. And half of that for the non-residents. All right, so no matter what the socioeconomic genre of this club is, every club, when you have an assessment, is going to lose some members. We're not ignorant to that. We have no idea how many are going to leave. We factored 10% loss of membership. 250, that's, guess what? That's 25 members are going to quit over the assessment. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll be more, maybe it'll be less. We don't know. You know, certain times of the day, certain parts of this clubhouse you go to, you think all of them are going to quit because you hear it, you know, pretty loudly. And then other days you think that, oh my God, everyone's in. So it's going to be somewhere. I don't know what it is. So if we lost 10% of our membership, the equity assessment would be $8,200. Half of that for a non-resident, $41. and then they still do the monthly and pay off over 36 months or 5 years, or you can do it 10 years. So the bank I spoke with this morning, again, we've had multiple conversations with the bank, and they are, originally we were going to finance half of this project with the bank. Well, we wanted to finance more of it and to extend it out, but they're only going to lend money on about 50% of what we need. They want us with skin in the game of at least 50%. Okay, so we're going to have to do an assessment for at least 50%. Then what happens when 20% of you in this room, not you, but other people, equity members, decide to leave in a year because, you need to, for whatever reason. You have a blown disc and you can't play anymore, or whatever the reason is, it's going to happen. My parts are breaking down, right? It's going to happen. What's going to happen to the amount that you paid in? Do you get a refund? Do you expect some pro rata share back? So it gets into a very difficult situation, and the club is trying to operate, a club and not become part of a loan portfolio to all these people who have different expectations for how much of their assessment, how much value did they receive, and so on. What about the member that comes in? That's going to be a next question. One of you is going to have that. I'm going to answer it before you ask it. What happens when someone comes in? Do they pay a portion? Do they pay an assessment? Well, we're going to get to that. And Deb, Ms. Pribnow, may I share a little bit of what's going to be proposed? So we have to put some skin in the game. We needed to, for sake of what we could manage, sake of simplicity, we have a financing option if you don't want to write a check, but we needed to do a full assessment, let the bank handle the payment plans, and we'll take care of the rest of it. So we needed everyone in at the full amount, and when you secure, if you choose to finance it, that loan, then you can walk that check and co-sign it over or write us another check against it. So that was the plan that we felt was the most reasonable for Briarwood. And there's been a lot of time and a lot of people kicking things back and forth. There's been 100 emails. I apologize to you that I haven't gotten back to right away. I think I've got all of you now. If I have an outstanding email back to you, let me know. But a lot of you are engaged. I've met some interesting members. I'm going to do three short stories. One of them, at the last meeting, there was a member here who wrote a letter to the board. He's a founding member, and he wrote a letter to the board that said, listen, you really need to get your Water Conservation Act together. This is a gentleman who'd worked with the Arizona Golf Association on water, and he said 20 years ago, he said, we need to cut back. They're doing 90 acres of golf courses, and eventually the writing's on the wall. We're going to have to cut back. And so now, the response to him, obviously, here we are, we're dealing with it. So we really haven't had an assessment for 20 years. The last assessment we did was for chairs. It was $2,500. Some of you in the back are sitting in those chairs. All right, so they get good value there. And then the second story was I was kind of wandering through the club on Easter, and I ran across a couple social members who had been equity members at one time, and they said, well, we're following everything you're saying, we're reading your stuff, it's good, we're in. I go, and the young lady looked at me and said, it looks like we need to start giving to the club and not the hospital. They're donors to the hospital, and they realize that they've had a lot of enjoyment in the club over the years, and they want to see this club protected, and they're in. And I ran across a gentleman the other day, equity member, still in equity, plays once a week, and He was on the board at the time that we negotiated the water lease with the Sun City Rec Centers. I'd never had the final answer as to how in the world we could have been burning through all that water when we only had 484 acre feet grandfathered to us. And the end of that story is that back in the day, the rec centers had enough water lease rights with the water company to cover Briarwood and everyone else and have a lot of water left over. So they carried us under the umbrella. Well, that water company sold to EPCOR. And EPCOR came in and they gave you some different rules. And all of a sudden, we only had 484 acre feet of grandfathered rights, and we needed to find some second tier water lease rights. And the rec centers ended up, long negotiation, leasing us, you know, almost 300 acre feet of water back in the day. And so that was a big deal, and so that's how we got away with it for all those years. Now we're on just pay for what you use. We pay about $40,000 to $50,000 a year for water through that water lease. If all this stuff works, we think we'll get that dollar amount to, like, you know, $10.88 on that water lease, because we really shouldn't need it if we do all these improvements, if we're smart with our money and our resources and our assets. Mrs. Classy? Sorry, well, you're one. Yes.
I'm Roger Schmidt, number 103. My wife and I joined the club in September of last year. I was hoping to get my game back from the way I was playing 60 years ago. It's come along, but not quite as much as I like. The problem is I've developed some real orthopedic problems because of golf. My knee, my back, my ankle, my wrist, everything. And so at this point, I'm a little bit concerned that I may not be able to play golf anymore. And I think it's very likely that I'll have to resign my membership this summer when my year is up. Now, the $7,000 that I would have to pay, and all the emails that suggested that, yep, I'm stuck for it, that's it. Okay, we have some banking that we could be doing, but even so, it sounds like I would have to pay $7,000. That's a huge chunk out of my budget. For other people, maybe not, but for me it is. And maybe there are other people in my boat. I have a proposal. I feel strongly that I need to support this club. I love the club, it's delightful. Golf, social, etc. But I have a proposal, and I don't know if this has been considered. You had mentioned that you had gone to the bank to see how much money could be borrowed, etc. My thinking is, why not go to the bank and ask for $500,000 in a line of credit, and then charge the members, say, $1,000 the first month, which gives you a nice chunk to start with, and then $100 or $200 a month until it's all paid for. $100 a month would take about 6 years, and it would all be paid for, including some interest on the line of credit. $200 a month, it would all be paid for in 2.5 years, which to me seems a little bit more easier to swallow than just a chunk of $7,000.
So let's.
Now, when I leave, if I leave in September, I would be paying my $100 or $200 a month up until then, and after that, the new member who takes my place will pick up on the $100 or $200 a month. You're asking.
So none of us are as smart as all of us. You have an idea. I'd like to, rather than solve it in a meeting like this, I'd like to consider what you have to say. If you would send that to me, I will forward to the finance. I've got an ad hoc finance, and they'll take a look at it. I'm not going to say I know all the details and get exactly everything that you're saying. I've got an idea what it is. there's a lot of upfront money that comes with this, you know, $1.5 million. I'm not sure how you get there with that, but I may not know everything that you're talking about. You know, you may not have got it all out. So just send it to me and we'll look at it.
I will. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll send it to you.
And I hope you feel better. I really do.
I'm
All right.
surviving.
Mrs. Classy was next. Joe, over here.
My questions are around the projects, it has nothing to do with the assessment. So when we replace the satellites, our sprinkler heads are compatible with those new satellites and controls, correct?
Currently?
Yes.
So,
So, because I'm looking at the timing of this to put the new satellite purchase and installation in August, but then we're not replacing irrigation heads until May. How does that help us?
Of next year, because
Yeah.
we can't get, if we were to say right now, today, tonight, hey, order it, we won't be able to get our sprinkle heads until next year. There's just availability, getting them built. They would probably come in stages, probably starting early spring, maybe next year.
Okay.
The difficulty what we're having now, okay, currently, we have a mix of heads on the golf course.
Yep.
Toro and Rainbird. Our control system is Toro. The voltage that the satellites are based off of and the computer programming is based off of is a Toro sprinkler head that uses less voltage. So when you put a Rainbird head in there and try to, just for quick, easy math, I want to run 6 stations at once, 6 heads. I can't, in the current system, run 6 Rainbird because then the satellite goes over voltage, blows a fuse, and then it doesn't run.
But you'll be able to do that with the new satellite.
Once we get the new satellites,
Okay.
we can make it work
Okay.
based on running the satellite by itself and not running it through the computer system.
Okay. Then the other question, or I have 2 more actually. It revolves around the irrigation pump replacement. Is that the pump on 10? Is that the pump on 14?
It's the pump that's currently on 14.
Okay, so that's not until May of next year. That's not a higher priority than the satellites? I mean, if the pump goes out, we all know what the course looks like when a pump goes out because we experienced it last year, right? So is that the right order in the project list? Or should that pump be replaced before we're doing some of this other stuff?
Again, so they would all, in the best scenario, everything would be done at once. Because of availability, because of getting pumps, because of getting the materials to build those pumps, it's going to take longer to do that.
Okay.
That's just part of, hey, how quickly can we get it done?
Okay. And then my last question is, turf reduction to me implies probably putting down like a desert landscape. Is that like a phase 2, or is that those numbers included in here when we talk about turf reduction?
So the turf reduction plan, Gary doing his due diligence,
Yep.
will happen as soon as we finish the GPSing, which will probably be, let's call that June 1st. Then Gary can look at it. To the gentleman's question over here earlier, what we're trying to do is keep as much of the current irrigation system intact without having to repipe it. We may find, hey, let's just say we need to lose 45 acres. It could end up being 42.2, it could end up being 51.9. But that is in Gary's, how do we create that line, that turf line, based off of what's currently underground, so we don't have to change piping. If we have to change piping, then the cost goes way down.
Right, but I assume if we're reducing turf, we have to do something to cut the dust, right? Or are you saying we're still gonna water some of those areas?
So what we're gonna do, if you look at it now, and I'm sure everybody's seen the sprinkler flags that we put up, okay, we'll go into those lines. The old ones that are currently in the ground, we will leave in there so that we could turn them on manually for dust control
Okay.
until we, is it 2025, 2026, when we put the DG in.
Okay.
So if you look into your question, the crossover from number 3 to number 4.
Yep,
The
looks
quarter-
great.
The quarter-inch minus that we put in, we will utilize that on, let's say, 75% of the golf course. Some of the areas left at number 5, left at number 6, where there's slopes, we'll have to go to a bigger rock so that it doesn't wash out. But in the majority of the areas that will happen are the unplayable areas. So if you hit a drive or eye, you're gonna be in the small stuff.
Okay,
Here you go.
okay, thanks, that answers my
And
question.
just to follow up, the pricing, that 1.55 does not include that. Our next stage would be the lakes, if those need some resealing. And the last phase of this whole project, Gary, plug your ears, is going to be the desert landscaping aspect. We hope that we would be able to mitigate a little bit of it every year to remain in compliance with dust management, so that we're not, what would you call that again? Vagrant? Fugitive dust. What a deal. Anyway, so, you know, we hope to be able to do that over a period of time and stay out of the hot seat with the county.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. And Ron and his crew are doing a great job.
Let me just clarify one more thing too about so part of it is what we need to start showing the department. But one of the conversations we've had is, let's see where our water use comes in once we replace the heads. Because we know they're bad. So we can run the numbers all day long to get to 45 acres that we need to take out. But the reality is we may be able to reduce that down to 30, in 5 years, because we've improved the efficiencies of the irrigation system, and then we've treated the lakes. So the club's kind of trying to use that as a variable at the end, and not just do it because it says 45. Do it because that's what we have left to do to get to our allocation. So it's a good phasing process to get to that end.
Okay, we're going to try to finish up with the people who have their hands up, and I know I've got it. Joe, where are you?
Yeah, right here.
All right, get speedy here. Let's go. We're coming.
Thank you. I like the idea of, that was offered before, about charging members so much a month, because it does two things. It spreads it out over the people who will be benefiting from this also in the future, and it makes the burden less onerous right now to the current members. According to your documents here, you expect a savings of $30,000 to $40,000 annually. Wouldn't that amount be used to help pay down a loan if you were to finance a portion of this, even if it were half of it?
It would lower operating costs, and that's one of the benefits. There's also a cost to, let's say, desert landscape. There's more weeds that we have, and it's not maintenance free. So it was just a recognition of the fact that we wouldn't have as, maybe wear and tear on equipment, mowing and all that kind of stuff. So, the problem is that, let's say one of you leaves, and you've paid a portion of your assessment. And what happens if we go 6 months and no one takes your place? Well, then we're short. Then the rest of everybody else has to pick up the portion of the person or people or groups that left. So it does get complicated. And at the end of the day, we sort of did that with the cart paths. We came up with $14 a month way back in the day. And then by the time we went from 350 members to, 150, that number was a lot different. So is there another question there?
Well, I did have another one. You're saving on the mowing equipment, and I thought that was the offset for the desert landscape, and that the 30 to 40,000 was the savings in the cost of the water.
Right.
And so if you have people who are enjoying the course, if the equipment is supposed to last for 25 to 30 years, isn't it, this new irrigation, you said earlier it was going to last.
Irrigation should last that long, right?
So wouldn't it be more equitable to extend the costs out over that to the current, instead of having the current members foot the entire bill?
The equity of the assessment amounts and whatnot is something to be considered. However, in 2008, this club dropped down to 140 some odd equity members. And so a lot of changes happened, and we simply as a club and as an organization couldn't afford to do all the repairs when they should have, maybe the head replacement and all that kind of stuff. We can speculate as to, we're having to pay for a little bit of it now, but we also received the benefit of a lot of payment back in the day, and we have stretched it. We have really kind of lived on some borrowed time, if you will. And now this is just unfortunate, but it's time to, we have to figure something out with this system. And you bring a point, and we did discuss it. So I'm going to go to Mrs. Micah's because I do want to get, Mr. Aiken, you're next. Hold on.
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Bob Aiken, we were seasonal members for a number of years. We're now equity members. And I'm having a problem understanding, even though it's in our bylaws, why the seasonal members should get away from paying only half. In fact, I really wonder why we even have seasonal members. When we were a seasonal member, we paid more for our club up north for less time to play than we did down here. And I'm sure that's true of almost everybody else who's a seasonal member.
Mr. Aiken, that's kind of a different topic.
But it has to do with the financing and
right.
how we're going to finance what we're doing.
We're adhering to the bylaws, and that's what we have to do. You're talking about something that is mandated by the bylaws, and unless we want to change those overnight, we're kind of where we are. And I'd like to have productive conversation about, what you're talking about. It's not going to change this conversation that we're having.
We had a discussion the other day, and one of the board members said, please talk and tell us what you're thinking about.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing.
All right, fair enough. And I'm not bitter about it. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions here, and I want to get to this particular project. And you're talking about the equitableness of non-resident versus equity members, and I get that. That's an argument to be made.
The assessment and how it's going to get paid.
Right.
And if we had more people in the full 100% rate, it would lower the cost to all of us.
But we don't.
But we could.
Not right away.
Well, I don't know what the rules are. But
Yeah, well, I do, and that's you bring up a great point. I'm all right, Mrs. Micah's.
I am just curious why someone would quit when they still had to pay the assessment. Why were they even considering wanting to quit? That was my question.
Maybe they had an injury. Maybe there's a family.
I meant if they just want to quit because of the assessment.
What's the question? Why?
If they're just quitting because of the assessment,
right.
Why would they quit when they still got to pay it?
I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
I'm just telling you what I hear out there. Yes, sir.
I've got actually 2 questions.
All right, Mr. Bloom has 2.
Okay, approximately when is the vote on this stuff going to take place? You've said whenever, but when is that, number 1? And number 2, wouldn't it be more equitable if everybody was assessed when the project starts and or is completed?
We have to buy the stuff first. We have to buy it. You have to buy it, and this project is a right now project. These are the members of record, and if we're going to pass an assessment, we can't pass an assessment on people that aren't even here. It's just, we need money to be able to order the heads, the satellites, and take care of any of that remedial pump work. I mean, this is stuff that gets in the system pretty.
You have to pay for them before you.
We do. And the first question you had was when this assessment. We have. When's the vote? Yeah, I got you. So the board will discuss this, I'm sure, in some finality at their meeting next week. I think, and I'm not speaking for the board, we have a May 2nd briefing meeting, which will be the final meeting to really discuss this amongst the members. And I believe that after 3 meetings of input back and forth, communication, that we would go immediately to a vote the next day. That would be my recommendation to the board, and then we would give the entire month of May to collect the ballots and votes and thumbs up or thumbs down.
Nate, just one quick, I'm passing the mic as people have their hands up.
Good.
So
All right.
we have the next one over here.
I'd like to change the focus here a little bit. I hope that doesn't bother you.
Depends on what it is.
I think the presentation by the gentleman has been good about water use. I do have some experience in the irrigation systems. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the loss that we've experienced in the last 2 years of running the club, aside from the value here and the change in the sprinkler system. And that's where we lost around $150,000.
$280,000.
$150,000 2 years ago, and then we got a letter that said we lost $280,000 last year.
We didn't lose $150,000 2 years ago. We made 30.
Okay, so we lost 281 last summer.
Right.
And I'd like to see some comments about what we're going to do to change that bleeding, because
I hear what you're saying.
I don't see anything changing in the clubhouse. I don't see any more people eating. I don't see very many more members. And I'm looking for this year, maybe, are we going to lose $200,000? How much are we going to?
Well, we've beat budget 5 months in a row.
Well, I stood and listened to people say that we're on budget for 5 years, and then I hear we're down $280,000.
I hear what you're saying. It's a different conversation, and we could, if you want to come and we'll have a long conversation about it, and I'll walk you through all of it from last year. That loss last year was significant, and we knew it was happening, and I just need to go through that with you.
If we find out we've lost $200,000 this year by the time the fiscal year is over, it makes a difference on how one person would feel about paying another $7,000 assessment. And then after you pay a $7,000 assessment, the next year you fix the ponds, you fix something else, and then another $5,000 assessment. You may lose more than 20 members.
So last year...
It doesn't look very good to me, Nate.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I don't see changes being made in the operations of the clubhouse and what's going on.
Wow. We've cut back actually from an expense standpoint. You've been one of those members that has read the financials and minutes and whatnot. We've cut back on expenses significantly, so it's not that the effort wasn't made. Last year with the pandemic and the challenges that we went through, there's a reason why we got PPP money and then we got government support. So this meeting is really about the project. I understand that your vote may be contingent upon changes in our operation to make sure that we don't lose money like we have.
Well, we got $400,000 of money forgiven, right?
840,000, go ahead.
Well, that's paid for our losses. We've been able to use that money afterwards.
Well, we haven't lost that much though. I don't know, your numbers are fuzzy.
Well, everybody's numbers are fuzzy in this club.
All right, now that we've got that settled.
Yeah, let's get that settled. The $400,000 or whatever number you want to use has saved us from our losses. We can't depend on COVID money alone.
Okay, so all I'm telling you is the last 5 months of this fiscal year, we've beat budget every month, and I think we're going to do it again. We've made changes, even though you don't see them, we have. And frankly, I'd like to spend a few more dollars to make members happier, but we can't do it until we make more money. So I think operationally, we're doing some positive things. I didn't want this to get into a budget and a finance meeting, even though it's about finances, it's about assessment, and you do have a lot of experience in irrigation, and I think that's great. You understand what's going on, and I think you have to vote your conscience. If you think you're throwing good money after bad, then that's your decision. But I know this, that this club is going to be around for a long time if we are able to solve these water issues. I think we're doing better than you think, but we have a difference of opinion.
Thank you.
So thank you. Joe, right here.
If your estimate is correct on losing 25 members, that's about $18,000 to $20,000 a month we'll lose if they quit. Will it be some type of a marketing campaign to attract new members to make up for that?
Yes. Yes. All right, any more?
Yes, I just want to say. I'm just sitting here listening, and I think if we're going to vote on just the assessment, which includes approval of the project, I don't think anybody's against the project. I think it's how we want to pay for it. And I think people want to be more equitable and spread it out and not a one-time thing. And I think you'll do a whole lot better if you look at the loan.
Okay.
Hey Nate, I have a question. Go ahead, mate. Hi. One of the things that I'm struggling with here is this is for the better use of the club in the future. I have a real problem because I'm not a member of any of the groups here, getting tea times because of outside play. I don't know how much value they bring to the club and who approves them. But I mean, when I played this week, because I'm not a member of any of the groups.
You bet. All right.
Hey Nate, I got one more question, Nate.
Go ahead.
I don't have a problem with this assessment. I'm wondering, okay, this is first phase. What happens after the first phase, second phase? Are we going to get assessed again and again, or what's going on?
So after the first phase, you know, of the irrigation system and whatnot, we assess where we are from a water consumption standpoint, water use standpoint, and we have to evaluate where we are. The idea, as we have applied for or will apply for an extension, gives us an additional time to raise dollars. I think the next phase of the project would be the lake repair to stop the leaking lakes. And at that point, if we need to fix the lake, we will have either saved money because we got an extension through maybe some of our replacement reserve contributions. I think the 8th and 9th pond is, I want to say, $200,000, maybe 183, something like that. It'd be my hope that we wouldn't have to go for an assessment, that we would have available cash to be able to do that. I don't know that, that's not my decision, but we need to assess where we are at the end of that lake project, or the irrigation project, to determine whether we need to save more water.
But we're not looking at another $5,000 or $6,000.
We don't know, but the 3 lakes to reseal those is going to be in the neighborhood of $600,000 in total, a little less than that, actually $500,000. So that's the most that could be, and our hope is that we actually save money to be able to not have to do an assessment, that we save capital.
So why can't we just do say we do this 8,000 or whatever,
right?
Whatever it is this. And then why don't we just do 1,000 a year or something to take care of that?
Well, we do that. Yeah, we do that through our replacement reserve.
Pooper, you know what I mean?
Okay, I was going to come over there.
I don't have a problem with that.
I got you. All right.
I got that document.
Okay. So that's what I read from earlier, and that just gives the assessment amounts based on the number of members. Okay. I think we need to call for adjournment. Most of you, a lot have gone. We're having dinner. Call for adjournment? Yes. All right. Thank you very much.